conversation just for us to talk to you. We want to have a conversation with you. Let me know when you make it into the room, and of course, we'll go ahead and get started once we see you make your way in.
So I'm new. You gotta explain to me. So how does this usually go?
Just for us.
Oh, there we go.
Yep, we're live. Yep. So how does this go?
Yeah, how does
All right. So of course I know you're familiar with carpool conversation. Of course, that's in the car. But cocktails and conversation is what carpool conversation started out as, where we I was able to bring in a lot of the the guests, people who watch, because again, conversation doesn't happen when it's just one person. It's a dialogue. So now that Facebook has changed up the platform where you can't really bring in people, well, I found something that will allow us to have a conversation with folks, and that is on this particular platform. I'm going to put the link up. Let me go ahead and do that and show it for those who are here. Oh, well, we got somebody that actually is in the staging area. I talked to her earlier. She was like, I don't want to be the first person in. And that, of course, is Tanya. I'm not going to bring you in right now. But we'll just wait around. And if you're in here, go ahead and just let me know you're here. Say hello. I'll put up the link for you if you decide you want to get started and you want to talk to us. Let's go ahead and you want to go ahead and get it started. Let us actually get the conversation going.
Yeah, we can.
Okay.
I did share it on my Facebook page, Scholar Go Hard on Facebook. So I don't know if they can comment on that or whatever.
I believe they can because it is live at the moment. They can comment. It should be able to let us know. If not, then just monitor your Facebook page. So that's good. So the conversation is race in America. You've seen it in the headlines. You've seen them on TV. You've seen it on Facebook. Definitely Facebook. It's all across Facebook, and particularly the George Lloyd video.
Floor.
Floyd video. And folks are talking about it. And look, while I love having conversation, that's pretty much in both the platforms, cocktail and conversation, carpool and conversation. I think it has to go beyond conversation. I think we can't just sit up here and just talk about it all the time. We got to do something about it. But before we get to that, I want to ask you, as a black male, seeing other videos like it that have surfaced, how does this make you feel?
It was an all too familiar scene. I gotta clear my throat now. It was like bringing me back to those moments that I remember ever since I can remember.
Uh-huh.
I think I also noticed stuff on Facebook. I noticed people who seem to not share a sense of empathy for the situation, and that just lets me know that we're not beyond the conversation yet. I think we still have to have a conversation, but we have to have that conversation with an open mind because I can't understand your story unless you explain it to me and I listen with the intent to understand,
Right.
right? And I think a lot of people, from what I've been seeing, I try not to entertain the Facebook stuff, but what I'm noticing is a lot of people are making excuses for the incident, dismissing the incident, or seemingly doing so. Um, Also, it's I don't know. It just hurts. I mean, I'm lost. I'm lost for words. As a black male in America, this is real. This is a real situation. This could have easily been me.
Yes.
You know.
Yeah, and that's what makes it so profound for so many people. Even if you are a non-black individual, I think if you have a friend who's black, if you have a relative who's black, somebody that you know and you love that's black, I think if you don't have enough empathy, you may not even be human. I think you just have to be able to tap inside of that. And I think what how it touched me was I have a brother
Hmm.
who's black. I have family members who are black, who male members who are black, and my brother actually went through an incident where he actually would have gone down for something that he didn't do, and it dealt with a white female. And thankfully, I had a very strong mother. I have a very strong mother who stood up for my brother and didn't back down. But he could have been sent up the river based on a lie. And while that may not be the same thing, but it is very difficult to be in your shoes because every day you go out, you don't know if you're gonna make it home. Even as a black woman, sometimes I have fears, And I just want to let this resonate with folks because I'm so happy that I was able to have this conversation with my coworkers. We typically don't talk about politics. We don't really talk about things that could get a little dicey sometimes at work because, well, I'm very outspoken.
Yeah. To say the least.
Yeah, and I think they're like, don't talk to Danica about it. But I will say, my station manager actually came to me with his heart open, and he just was I would say that he showed so much empathy that I was really like I was shocked by it.
I think speaking to that, I think that this. I mean, we saw literally witness murders via social media due to the technology of the cell phones, but it's something about this one in particular because watching it and as less as possible as I can watch. When I do glance at CNN, Fox, and all these other news stations, even Facebook, and I'm looking at the protests, it's a melting pot. It's a mixed group, all sharing the same sentiment that this is wrong and justice must prevail.
Yes.
Yeah.
So let's talk about how does justice prevail? How do we get justice? But before we get to that, I have this video up that's side by side. You probably are looking at it right now on your screen and you're wondering what is that? That's Killer Mike. You want to kind of tell us who Killer Mike? Just kind of give us a snippet of who he. I mean, you're in that
Killer
game.
Mike is one of the dopest MCs I've ever heard, especially coming out of Atlanta. I think he definitely is overlooked as far as that's concerned. Content is stupid crazy. So Killer Mike, and then on top of that, he's an activist. He really about what he say, and that's what I like about him. Very articulate, very mindful brother. So.
Yeah. So let me see if I can. We can go ahead and share it because I want to go ahead and play it if I can. This has been giving me some problems, but he's also an activist. He's somebody that has been very vocal with race issues outside of just this alone, and he really, he speaks his mind. But this particular video I wanted to show because you could tell he was near tears.
Yeah. I mean, while you get that together, Killer Mike being near tears, and I read some of the YouTube videos, and people was calling him all kind of names. But again, until you actually have experienced this, until it hits home, like they say, you will never understand what it's like to be black, especially a black male, in this America that we live in today. Yeah. And I say this America with the hope that it someday changes.
When a man yells for his mother in duress and pain, and she's dead, he's essentially yelling, please God, don't let it happen to me. And we watch that. So my question for us on the other side of this camera is, after it burns, will we be left with charred, or will we rise like a phoenix out of the ashes that Atlanta has always done? Will we use this as a moment to say that we will not do what other cities have done, and in fact, we will get better than we've been? We got good enough to destroy cash bonds. You don't have to worry about going to jail for something petty. We got smart enough to decriminalize marijuana. How smart are we going to be in the next 15 or 20 years to keep us ahead of this curve? So that much like when South Africa suffered apartheid, you had Andy and other politicians that could make sure that Atlanta said, Coca-Cola, we love you, but if you don't pull out of South Africa, we're going to leave. We're not going to drink Coca-Cola anymore. Coca-Cola jumped on their side and apartheid ended. So we have an opportunity now. Because I'm mad, I don't have any good advice. But what I can tell you is that if you sit in your homes tonight, instead of burning your home to the ground, you will have time to properly plot, plan, strategize, and organize and mobilize in an effective way. And two of the most effective ways is first taking your butt to the computer and making sure you fill out your sentences so that people know who you are and where you are. The next thing is making sure you exercise your political bully power and going to local elections and beating up the politicians that you don't like. You got a prosecutor sent your partner to jail and you know it was bullshit, put a new prosecutor in there. Now's your election to do it. You want a different senator that's more progressive, that pulls marijuana through, now is the time to do that. But it is not time to burn down your own home. I love and I respect you. I hate I don't have more to say. I hate I can't fix it in a snap. I hate Atlanta's not perfect or as good as we are. But we have to be better than this moment.
All right, so that's just a snippet of what what's going on, and one person's response. Killer Mike, I've seen him on other platforms, and unfortunately on situations similar to this. And it does kind of bring you to tears when you watch the whole thing because he's never short of words. He's very passionate, but you could see a man who is near tears.
Yeah, and also, I mean, beyond that, I see a man that is a true leader. Because I think when we have a situation that we have right now, I'm kind of on the fence whether or not this protest is really worth it at this point. And I'll tell you why before anybody bashes that. The reason why, because we've seen a protest with every single incident. Every incident that has happened has involved a protest, and we continue to have the same incidents. So I think what Killer Mike offers is a more feasible plan to me. You know, something that you can see actual results, because you get on the front line and you looting and you rioting and you protesting, but yet when you get to a situation where that judge has to be elected, when you get to a situation where that mayor has to be elected, that governor, go through the whole political system, you're not at the polls. So at that point, what are you really affecting? You know, and that's my thought on that, because at your power, like Killer Mike said in the video, beat them up at the polls. You know, and being on that side, on the other side of the campaign trail, I know that those numbers count. You know, and those things are things that you have to look at, and we don't show up.
And I don't know why. You know, we've had conversations with
Mm-hmm.
close friends, people we know, who tell us emphatically, I'm not voting.
Yes.
I'm not voting. So all I'm saying is, if you didn't vote in the past, just do it. Just humor me. Humor the rest of the world. Humor us. And just go and cast your vote. And let's see then if the numbers reflect it.
Not only vote, he also mentioned the census.
Yes.
You know, that's how a lot of dollars are distributed. That's how a lot of programs are started. This is how they tell where's the need.
Mm-hmm.
You know, based on numbers. Numbers are everything. So if we're not represented, then you're basically invisible.
Yeah, we need recreation dollars. We want our kids to have places to go. You know, you want these different type of academies to come up. Well, they need to know that we have those numbers. So overall, what I feel our strongest, the way that we beat this is we vote. We vote.
That's one portion.
That's one portion. We vote. We also legislate. We enact laws.
Yep.
Also, continuing on what Killer Mike said in his video is that we have community groups. We got to have a watchdog group. We got to have somebody to hold. There should be checks and balances.
The officials accountable.
Yes.
And just being totally transparent, you know, for a fact that you and I have been on the front line for a long time, trying to correct and rectify some of the issues that we see, and also sitting in those offices talking to our officials. It's not like they don't want to hear you. It's people don't show up. We've even had forums where we taught people, remember the community roundup, brought lawyers in, taught people how to properly, you know, go about doing things, and it's still to no avail. You know, that's frustrating.
Yes. Yes.
And I'll just be honest and transparent and say that is frustrating. When you put forth that much effort and you offer the resources, and then it falls on deaf ears. You know, and so it puzzles me as a black man, as painful as this moment is, it puzzles me because it's like, what's the result?
And also, what's the next step?
No.
because I am, to my heart, I feel like the community is where it's at. Use your dollars. Use your. I mean, that's our biggest buying power. Buying power is big.
Buying power is the only thing we have.
Yeah.
Let's just be real. As far as economic structure is concerned, we don't own. All we own is buying power, consumers. And that's just being honest. That's being real. If that's what we're doing, we're being real.
Yeah.
So that's where we are. So if that's the power that we have now, use it. Use it. So
I just want to remark on Brianna, and I'm trying to go through as we're talking, just to put their comments up. She says, "I felt the same way when I was talking about life insurance in our community."
mm-hmm.
Why is it that it has taken something like this to get us to talk about it? To not, when I say us, I'm talking about everybody. I'm not talking about, because I made this comment before. Disenfranchised Black people having conversations about disenfranchised Black people fall on deaf ears. We need everybody in this community to stand with us, to make laws, to hold people accountable for their actions. Also, in that same video, because I definitely don't need the backlash as well. My brother is law enforcement. Killer Mike's family members are law enforcement. So when people come back, and this is what I don't like, all law enforcement is not bad. That's not what's being said. That's not the conversation.
So listen, do I have to censor myself? Can I say bullshit?
You can go for it.
I don't want to hear that bullshit, because the fact of the matter is we know for a fact that all law enforcement are not bad. It's unfortunate that right now in the state that we in with the rioting and all this other stuff, it puts everybody in danger. But why is the rioting happening? And I'll tell you my opinion of why it's happening. It's because these are people that's filled with anger, filled with confusion, they're just fed up with the system, and there is no leadership in place to guide them. Right? So I think Killer Mike's attempt was to implement some sense of leadership and give some direction to that anger. Because if you put a bunch of angry people who are not being heard, what do you think is gonna happen? What do you think is gonna happen? Chaos.
Yes.
My biggest thing I've always said is, where there is no order, there can only be disorder. That's it. And part of order is having leadership and structure, and I think that's what Big Mike. That's why I love what he said.
That goes to what Submitted Heart has submitted, saying, so what do you do in those situations when Black people do not rise to the occasion?
Good question. Good question. I think, if I had to, and I think it's my duty to offer some type of resolve, in my opinion. It's only my opinion. But I think it starts from within, and we talk about that. I think right now we're at a state where the Black community as a whole is reaching out for help, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's time to reach within for help. I think it's time to heal within and then poise ourselves to advance. And then we will see real resolve. We will see real results as far as, so I think, to answer the question, I think the next step is, or the greatest step we can take is healing within first.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And let's give us examples of healing. I mean, I think I know where you're coming from, but when you say healing, how does one heal? I mean, I think there's a form of PTSD. I mean, all kinds of stuff going on.
I think first addressing the mental issue. My office is located right next door to a registered therapist. And just being transparent, with being honest. I see the people come in and out all day. Don't know what they're going in there for. That's not my business.
Yeah.
But I can see who's coming in and out, and I see little to no Black people. Just honest, and the reason being is because mental health is taboo in our community. It's keep it hush. It's stay. But you gotta think, like, what happens to soldiers when they come home from war, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because they experience all these traumatic events and all these things that definitely mess with your mental. They have to be corrected. But you have black people, and regardless to whoever wants to say what, racism still exists today. It still exists. And so when you have a person that's trying their hardest, and then you come from, historically, you come from pain and anguish, and you know what I mean, constantly having the foot on your neck. And yes.
Yeah, no, and I want you to, and I want you to speak to that, because so many people, when we have these type of conversations, the response is typically, why can't you just get over it? Why can't you just move past it?
And not only that, what the other thing is, it's not my fault. I never.
Yeah, I
owned
never.
slaves.
Right, and I don't think they understand the root of it. I don't think they understand that it's institutionalized, it's systemic, like it runs deep,
Mhm.
and it's every day.
Mhm.
It's every day. I can be affected buying a home, getting a job, based solely on my color.
Yes, and it's real.
I find myself, when we have to make important phone calls, you and I, what do I say I have to do? I make the phone calls. He doesn't make the phone calls, because you know what I'm going to do? I'm going
Because
to
I
cold
can't change my
switch.
voice to this.
I'm going to cold switch, because hearing my voice as is, hearing your voice as is on the phone, that's a black person, and I won't. I probably wouldn't get the job. I probably wouldn't get the house. I probably wouldn't be able to buy some type of property or some type
That's
of
real.
merchandise item, and that is the reality that
That's
we face every day,
Yeah.
every day.
Yeah.
And I just wish there was more of us on this so that we can have the conversation. But I'm going to go to the people who are here,
Mhm.
because I want this to, and I mean, they can go back and watch it later if they like. Submitted Heart says, when you talk about mental health, you have to know there is a problem. Yeah, yeah. I mean, by definition, you say therapy, right? You are trying to correct a problem, right? I mean, you're trying to, heal whatever that wound is.
Well, being a person that has gone to therapy myself, I think, and I've gone to, everybody think you got to be crazy to go to therapy. I've gone to therapy just to deal with the day-to-day stresses. I'm a business owner. I got family. It becomes stressful on the mind.
Well, therapists seek therapists.
Yes. It's just like you go to the gym to work out, you have to work your mind out. And what a therapist does is what I've learned is help you with coping mechanisms. I mean, there's no way they could erase any issues that you're going through. It's more or less to help you cope with those issues. And I think we all need that at some level.
Yeah. Well, I mean, again, it's nothing. Nothing is wrong with it. Again, therapists usually go to get a checkup for themselves, so it's not a bad thing. It's not. You're doing something that's going to harm you. It's going to help you. Okay, let me get to. Many people don't feel that there's a problem. Well, that's the problem. You don't think that there's a problem.
We know who the many people are.
So, and you may not be able to affect those people.
And I'm not, I'm really over, and I think the media tries to push this, no shots at you.
I'm not that media. Let's just be, I want people to know I'm not that media.
I think so I remember Geronimo Pratt, God bless his soul, may he rest in peace. I was sitting up in there when they were doing a documentary on him. And I'm a student at that point, and I'm watching, I'm listening to historical value that this interview had was just phenomenal. So I'm listening, and one thing he mentioned that always stuck and will always stick with me till my dying day. He said the first casualty of war is the truth. Right? So in order for the powers that be and the ones that have ill intent towards not just black people, white people, Asians, whoever, anybody that's not in their tax bracket, they do not care about. Let's just get that whole situation straight right now. But the thing is, what they have to do is create an illusion of and separate us to keep us knocking at each other so that they can continue on their mission.
Right.
So I say that to say that this is greater than a white or black. It really is. It's greater than white or black. And who's right, who's for right, and who's for wrong.
Right, there we go.
Period. It's right and wrong. And that's it.
I want to bring, now we actually have, we're bringing you into the conversation. There you go. Hey.
Hey.
Yeah.
Oh, what's up, Chris?
Yeah. Don't recognize this queen.
What's up? What's up, Chris?
Ah,
Yes. Yes. So,
okay.
Shout out to Marquise because he listened. He just texted me.
oh, awesome. Well, and I,
Chime in, bro. If you can, Nick got
yeah,
a
I have
link.
the link up on the screen. So
Chime in.
I would like, for you to get involved with it, actually trying to find a better way to do this. Okay, here we go. So at this point, I welcome your feedback.
You talking to me?
Yes, yes.
You're on. You're on.
All right. So we were just talking about healing and mental health. And I was mentioning, a lot of people don't feel there's a problem. They don't feel there's a sense or a need to heal. So when you talk to me and say, hey, we tried this in our community and it didn't work. We got a lot of, backlash or, opposition, and it was from people of color. To me, that's what I'm speaking of. I'm speaking of we have this opposition from people of color. We have a need to heal in our race, but there's no understanding that there's that. So what do you do in those situations? Because a lot of times I feel the same way you do. We're of like mind, but we all need to get on one accord. It's not just the people who have like minds, it's the people who are not of like minds that we need to get all on the same level, because sometimes it really, and I know you guys may feel this way, there are less of us who feel the same way than there are of. So how do we get them to cross over? How do we bridge the gap?
Yeah. And that's a great point. And one thing I read, and I don't remember where it came from, and it made total sense. It said that it only takes 5% of a population in a neighborhood to change the entire dynamics of the neighborhood. What I'm saying in that is we don't need everybody on the same page at this point, right? We don't
Okay.
need everybody. We need a group of people that are on one accord. And I think it takes more than just black people, like you mentioned earlier. It's going to take a group of people, a small percentage of that can make a strong impact. You think of the judicial system, you think of, the Congress and the whole, that's a small group of people that's affecting everything we do. Now, can we make laws? Yes, we can. It only takes a small group of us to be on the same page, standing on one accord, and showing that we are fed up. And going back to what Big Mike said, and I love what he said, once we identify that small group, we have to sit and we have to talk and have a real conversation, and we got to iron out all differences, and so that we know we are on one accord.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
And then from there, we move forward with what he said: plan, plot, strategize, mobilize, and then you move. So to what you said, sis, I don't think it takes the entire community to get on board. I think if we can get that 5% to come on one accord, we can affect the whole thing on a larger scale.
And I totally agree with you. But also, too, I'm still in my bike riding attire. And I think that's probably why she has her head wrapped up. We had this conversation, prior to this live. And she's a school teacher. And I think I'm okay by saying that. But I think it takes a village, right?
Mhm.
It takes a village. So she, as a school teacher, I think she has a duty to have those conversations with her students.
Yeah.
I think I have a duty to do what I'm doing. I think I don't, because you know what? I think the problem is we're all flooding to Facebook, right? We all have something to say. And I think that's where it's getting lost. You have one sect of people who are saying, go for the violence because we're just fed up. And then you have some that say nothing. We got to find a balance, and we got to find something that works.
So speaking to Facebook and how powerful social media is, knowing the following and the presence that I have on Facebook, I'm very careful in what I post and what I say, and you helped me learn that. You helped me learn that because I've seen people on the street, not even, to me, I'm just, Scholar, I'm just like, whatever. But you helped me understand, and then walking around the streets and people telling me what I posted on Facebook and telling me how it affected them and telling me that what they read, and then it's 2 years ago they're telling me what I said. And I'm thinking, I'm like, that's power.
Yes.
and power in the wrong hands can be destructive. And so I try my best to use that power, which we all have, because everybody that posts anything on social media has the power to affect the mood of whoever reads it. So you have to utilize that power accordingly. And so I make it a point to try to uplift, educate, to what I mean, do things that will add a positive value to whoever may read it.
Awesome.
Well,
Anything else? I know, like I said, I know you're like, you got me up here. So I know we have a couple more people. I do want to get involved in the conversation, such as Brianna said, I have a duty to be here and be a part of this conversation. And you can be a part of this conversation, and I'm ready. I'm ready for it. Tanya, any last words? Oh, she left.
she left.
She left.
Last words,
I
I'm
guess
out.
it's like I'm out. Peace out. We actually have Marquis. I hope it's okay if I bring you in. Marquis, you think
He said you ready to go.
you ready? Oh, cool.
That's what he
I'm
said.
loving it. All right.
That's
Coming
my bro
in.
right there.
All
Yeah.
right, we see a brick wall, but that's okay.
Sorry, my camera's on a brick wall, but I also just got finished bike riding, so I'm not exactly in the right
Bro,
attire here.
bro, I was fishing, man. I was fishing. So y'all was bike riding, I was fishing.
Yes, indeed.
But thank you for coming in, man. Thank you for coming in. For those of y'all watching, listening, maybe watching later, this man, I don't know what else to say about it. That's my brother from another mother. Like, I love this dude. I love his style. So he's the pastor of the church that we attend, and the motto is love people, love God, love people.
Right.
And this man really lives by that. And that's one thing that I can honestly say. So welcome on in, bro.
Yeah, and so I really don't have a question. I know you're coming with something. So I want you to at least tell us what's on your mind, and then we'll fall in line.
Yeah, definitely. So, one of the things that just been on my heart is, and I shared this morning, and I give it credit to God for it because it definitely didn't come from my own understanding. But is that we all have an opinion, and when we come with an opinion, we have to be willing to wear the shoes of the person with the opinion. We have the same shoe on. And what happens is we want to project our opinion and then expect somebody to put on our shoes when they've never worn our shoes before. They've never been in our place before. And until we can understand that every opinion comes with weight, every opinion has someone else that's been through it, we can then start to understand that all of our opinions need to come together like we're all wearing the same shoe. And all that means is that we come together not necessarily to agree, but we come together to discuss. And when we can change the narrative that we don't have to agree, but we have to learn to discuss, we can actually start seeing leadership put forth things that can help change.
Yeah, I agree.
So and I guess part of me, I'm always playing devil's advocate as well.
Yeah, do it.
So while I understand that you don't have to agree, but I think in some instances where, because you have to realize that in some situations there's a lot of ignorance.
Yeah.
Because you don't know.
Well, and let me butt in right quick. I think I know what he meant in the sense that we don't have to agree. I think agree maybe your political views, this and that, but I think the agreement has to be that this is wrong, this needs to change.
Yeah.
Now, if you're Republican, I'm Democrat, whatever, I don't think that matters.
But to me, that has no weight at all in this
It has
situation.
a lot of weight in
but
this
it
society.
shouldn't. But it
Yeah,
does.
right.
But
It
it
shouldn't.
shouldn't.
Right.
Right. So what I'm focused on is what you said earlier.
Mm-hmm.
What's right is right, and what's wrong is wrong.
Yeah.
And I feel like there is no gray area.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess that's where our problem is.
Yeah, and I agree with you on that statement, right? That we can, I think in any opinion, we can find a common connection. I just believe that no matter where your opinion comes from, you can find the common connection. I guess what I'm trying to get to is when we disagree, we have to understand that there will always be disagreements. People will always have a disagreement. There will always be something somewhere where there's going to be a moment where we don't understand, or again, it's trying to force a narrative of someone to wear the same shoe that they've never been in before. And I think that's where we start to run into the brick walls that we face. It's kind of funny since my camera's facing a brick wall.
No.
but I think that's kind of where it comes and it swims in there because it's the forced narratives rather than finding those common denominators. It's finding that area to say, I have an opinion, you have an opinion. Let's find the same shoe. Let's find a shoe that we can walk in together. Let's find a narrative that we can say, hey, you know what? Let's at least start somewhere.
Right.
And I believe we can come to that place. It can change that narrative. It can change little things, but I believe it's got to come from leadership. And I think that's the biggest issue that we have. And I know I'm late to the game, so you might have already discussed a lot of this. Um, but I believe when the leadership can come together, when we can put aside the differences, when we can say, hey, you know what? I need to stand with you. I don't need to go against you. And then vice versa. I need to stand with you. I don't need to go against you. Let's put on the shoes that we have in common and let's walk together. And then after I walked with you a little while in a common shoe, I can start to understand your struggles. When you walked a little while in a common shoe with me, you can begin to understand my struggles and we can start to see things from a different light. But if we don't at least get to a place where we can take our opinions and find a common shoe, we're just going to keep running into the wall.
Right, right. No, and that's what I'm saying. I think what we're talking about right now, I think that's a part of the vetting process to determine that 5%. So if a person comes to me and I think I know what you were speaking to, the ignorant people, and there's a lot of them out there
Yeah.
that will not even try to hear what you're saying,
I mean,
try to
yeah,
understand,
just
then those are the people
yeah,
you cut out.
yeah,
Like
yeah.
that's the vetting process. I know that you're not even a part of this 5%.
But those are some of those folks are the ones who hold power, which is why it's
Yeah,
important that we do vote. You vote, you legislate,
exactly.
you regulate.
Right.
That's what we have to do.
Yeah.
Because if we sit back and say just let it play out, but the
No, I don't
ones who
agree.
are
Yeah,
because I think that's
yeah,
where
right.
we've been. We just kind of say, well, it'll pass over.
Yeah,
But the ones who are the ones like you're just talking about, well, whatever you say, it doesn't matter because this is how I feel. Those are some of the people that have been elected into office because this is going to take more than just conversation. This is going to be we have to take this to a different level. We have to take this to where we are holding people accountable and
yes,
people are facing consequences. I'm talking about real consequences for their actions. Because right now, you know what it feels like? It feels like it's open season. It's hunting season.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, and I can totally understand that too, and I would put into the equation that that is where we're facing our major issues is that the voices of people that need to be heard are being heard from the wrong avenues. And I believe that's where and for me, and since I don't have my camera on my face, yeah, I'm a white guy, um, but I would say that I think it comes from both narratives, right? It comes from both sides of the equation. There's voices that are louder than mine that are coming from the wrong side. There's voices that come from the other side that are louder than most, and it's coming from the wrong side, right? So
yeah,
there's unfortunately in situations, the person with the loudest scream is the one that normally gets the most attention in a room. Uh,
yeah,
and it doesn't necessarily mean that they had the Lord's hurt or the right thing to say. And I think that's where we have to start. Like Skylar just said, this is where we have to start the vetting process. This is where we have to begin the process of, you know what, I'm going to block out those
yeah,
that just refuse change, refuse to listen, refuse to hear, and I'm going to start syncing up with those who will. I'm going to start syncing up. Again, it's finding that common narrative to walk with someone. I shared to our congregation this Wednesday. I said, there's people in my life, and I actually made mention of Scholar. Right, there's a guy who's come into my life recently that I've had utmost respect for, but I don't know what it is to walk in scholarship. And I've heard your story, and I've heard your pains, and I've heard your hurts.
right,
I still don't know what that walk is.
yeah,
I was lucky. I grew up in Glennsville, so I kind of had this narrative of not really understanding, the weight of what was going on in the real world. And so for me, it took time to really sit down with people and hear the real hurts and the real pains and the real struggles. And still, I've never walked those shoes. I've never had those pains. I've never had those struggles. So I can't speak and say that instantly, oh, you just need to do better or you need to be better. I can't say that
Thank
right,
you. Yes,
right,
that's
right,
right. That's
right,
right.
right,
because pain is the subject of how we respond. It's no different than fear. Pain and fear both have the same tendency in life. Pain and fear both have a fight or flight mentality. You either want to go full on or you want to hide and cower. Pain causes that in us. If you break your wrist, you either want to run to find something to fix it or you're going to crawl up in a ball and cry and scream. But
Right.
both hurt and both have a response. And when we're in pain, we can't just look at somebody and say, "Oh, you just got to instantly do better." Pain is a process. The Bible even teaches us there's a time for us to deal with pain. There's a time for us to breathe. There's a time for us to struggle. I think what we have to do as people is we have to help people. I did come in on the conversation when you were talking about the mental health. I think that's where we really need to help people. We have to help people understand, hey, where do you express your pain? Where do you fix your pain? Again, I'll just go back. I used a wrist because I broke my wrist one time riding a dirt bike like a big dummy, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so when I broke my wrist, it was the question of, well, what do I do? For me, I personally was crawled up on a I was crawled up in the fetal position, screaming like, "Get me to the hospital! Call 911! Get an ambulance!" Right? I went into a fear mode, and the thing is that my response was get me to the place that can bring me healing. Get me to a place where I can get something to fix this. It
Right.
wasn't I'm gonna go and I'm gonna try to do something and I'm just gonna wrap it up and then go break the other wrist. And so this is what we have to come. So no matter what our approach is, no matter what we're facing, we have to come with the mentality of I need to go where the healing can take place, where I can receive what I need to fix the problem, not just react to the problem. Right?
And
If I
so,
if I'd have left my wrist broken and just try to wrap it myself and then just try to go get right back on the dirt bike, I'd have caused more pain and I'd have caused more problems.
yeah, yeah. And so, Marquis, we without giving out any details, but you remember when we were at the lake and that situation happened,
Yes.
and the guy got in your face, and it wasn't like he was trying to do anything other than express
Oh,
pain.
yeah.
But the fact of the matter is, if you remember and you recall, it wasn't until I opened my mouth and told my story that showed him that I can relate to. And
Yes.
after he started to see that my story was a bit more, over the top than his, and then he backed down. He felt like, what I mean? At first, it was a bunch of pain being expressed. You remember, Marky?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was a bunch of pain being expressed, and it wasn't until I showed, and like Marky said, he probably could have never spoke to that pain. You know?
No.
Yeah, yeah, and it wasn't since I was there and able to speak to that language of that pain, he backed down and he left. I wish he would have stayed longer, because then we could have tag team, whereas Marquis could have spoke the word into him. You know what I mean? So I just that's what I see it as. I see the fact of us actually coming together and because let me just say this right now. For all of the black people that are saying, we need to be about ourselves and this and that. So let's be real. Like that's not the world we live in. It's not the world we ever gonna live in. White people would not be without black people. Black people would not be without white people. We gotta live together. And look, and the fact of the matter is, for those that feeling like it's time to uprise against the machine, we don't have the resources to. That's a death sentence. We don't have the resources to rise up. Like, all right, anyway,
Yeah,
I'm going
that,
off
no,
on
no,
yeah,
no,
yeah,
no. You're right. You're
yeah.
right. But I wanted to just remark on his almost like an analogy how he talked about how he balled up in the you were in a fetal position, but you were able to express how you felt, and they listened to you. You went to a doctor, and they helped you.
Yep.
All of that is the same situation. If we could all think in terms of that story, then you know that there are a
Marky
lot
always
of
coming
hurt.
through.
Well, I mean, he's a pastor. He's a pastor,
Always
right? But you see
right, right,
where it's
right,
going.
right.
Let me go ahead. I'll pass this. Actually, this is for you. Do you feel resistance to these needed conversations? For instance, are you seeing these conversations take place in the congregation?
Yeah, that's a great question. There's definitely always going to be resistance, right? This is something I've tried to talk about before, and it's a tough subject because this subject is a direct cause of sin, right? And there's no getting around it. So as long as there's sin in the world, there's always going to have problems.
Mhm.
Racism is going to be part of that problem. Murder is going to be part of that problem. Injustice is going to be part of that problem.
Mhm.
We can just go all the way down the list to every problem that we see in the world today. It all comes back to that one word of sin. And so the topic there is always going to be there, and there's always going to be resistance. Anything that's uncomfortable is going to cause resistance. It's no different than me going to the gym and trying to lift weights, especially right now because I ain't been in there forever. So it's going to be uncomfortable. Why? Because there's resistance to it, and I can either continue to push through the pain of the resistance, or I can choose to stop pushing and just back away from the resistance and pretend like it doesn't exist.
Yeah,
So
true.
so there's two that's always gonna be here though, right? No matter what our narrative is, no matter what we try to do, no matter what we try to say, that narrative never goes away. Just like the resistance to the weight will never go away. It's the same thing with the resistance in our lives. The only way that it gets easier is if I keep pushing the same weight over and over and over again. But then even the problem to that is I'll just get used to that weight and then there's no more resistance, right? So this is kind of the issue that we face in life. So do you feel that there's resistance to the conversation? Yes, I do, and I believe there always will be. That's why I'm so grateful for my friend Pastor C. Because me and Pastor C got together a few years ago, and we both came. We come from completely, totally different backgrounds, different mentalities when it comes to church, even right. Although the church is supposed to be the one church, and we're all supposed to be together, unfortunately, we all have our different backgrounds even when it comes to church. So when me and Pastor C came together, it was this moment where we both looked at each other and said, "Man, we can have an opportunity here to bridge something. We can bring the gap together stronger than we have before." And so that's what I've tried to do with Pastor C, to try to make this narrative better, to try to bring this narrative to a better place for all of us. So we got to get there. And as far as the answers, are you seeing the conversation take place in the congregation? I do think we see it there in the congregation. Is it always the conversation we want? I don't know. Unfortunately, I'm not involved in every conversation, right? And it's so different for any pastor in that narrative, right? We don't get to be there for every conversation. We don't get to see it in every conversation. And so I know the conversations arise. I know they come up. We just have to believe this. This is my personal opinion when it comes to this. Okay, my personal belief is if I teach Jesus, and I'm not just talking about some little simple Bible stories here. I'm talking about if I preach Jesus and I preach the message of Jesus, and that is that we love God and we love people, then we have to hope and we have to pray that people will begin to follow that narrative and they actually subscribe to that narrative, right? It's no different than any other conversation on the planet. It's no different than any other thing that we have. We have to provide them with truth and then hope people attach to truth. At the end of the day, the person at the receiving end of the conversation, the person at the receiving end of the truth has to be the one to accept that truth. And so that's the difficult part for all of us. It's trying to get people to accept that truth. But it goes back to my statement. Everybody has an opinion, and until we're willing to walk in some area, it's a togetherness. People are either going to push away or they're just not going to listen at all.
Well,
I heard a voice too.
yeah, you were kind of going in and out a little bit. I don't know if it was just too close to your mouth, but something I know that you have said in church. And I'm gonna tell you that was the time when I got up on my feet and I said, "Come through." That's my thing. Come through, Pastor. I think you have to convict people. A lot of times, people just go to church because it's the thing to do, and I want a fellowship. But the word has to convict you.
Yeah.
And I think you've said some things about, I mean, it's crazy, but the world is, we're social media. Everyone's on social media, and everybody can be anybody they want to be on social media. And I'm gonna tell you, you hit the nail on the head when you said you come to church one way, but then you're a different way, or you have a different, I guess, persona that you carry on online. And the motto of the church is love people,
Love God,
love God, love people. And I don't think many people in the church are living by that.
yeah. I think that's the resistance he's speaking to.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, and
look, we gotta,
I'll
Yeah.
hopefully my mic can pick up now. Is it any better?
Now you
Yeah,
are,
yeah,
yeah, yes,
yeah.
yes.
Okay. Yeah, so I would just say this too, as far as that goes. Again, it's one of these things where it's unfortunate, that we've always kind of seen this throughout all throughout history, where we can have a lot of answers, but it doesn't necessarily mean that people are going to subscribe to those answers. And so it's a very difficult challenge that we all face. It's unfortunate, but I share this all the time. History has a bad way of repeating itself. And so the reason why history is constantly repeating itself is because people constantly continue to follow the same track, uh, and keep doing the same things over and over and over and expecting a different result. We call it insanity, right? So, unfortunately, most of us live in kind of this sense of insanity where we keep hoping for a change, but people are always going to be people. It's another one of my favorite sayings, but we always get surprised that the world acts like the world.
Right.
But again, there's always going to be sin in the world. And there's always going to be problems in the world, which means that we'll always have something that has to be dealt with. There's always going to be, there's. I like to put it this way, and this sometimes rubs people the wrong way, but we have to be cautious that we can't look at people as evil. We have to remember that there's an evil one in the world that's working to manipulate people because God created all things good, and if we're created in the image and likeness of God, then all people are good. But it doesn't mean that there's not an evil influence in the world.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
that's my mom used to tell me that. Yeah, yeah. So some of the comments, and I think you may have already addressed it, but how are you addressing it as a leader? And that was coming from Submitted Heart. And then Nika Gang says we have to make the choice of who is in charge. And I think that has been the issue too. You
Yeah,
know, like
leadership
yeah,
is the main issue.
right. Um, if there's anything more, because we're getting down now to the wire,
Yeah.
I
Yeah, I
appreciate.
understand.
I'm glad that you're here and you're speaking on it because again, it's about getting the message out there and talking
So,
to.
wait, I have a question. I have a question,
Okay.
Marquis. So, I mentioned earlier that it's going to take beyond, and Nick, you mentioned it too, beyond just black people talking about this issue. Do you feel that white people have a responsibility? I'm not even going to say a choice. I'm going to say responsibility to also step in as far as the race relations is concerned and help end racism.
100%, I do. I think it's going to be that again. I'll just put it back out there. I think that's where that finding that commonality is going to be very difficult, right? And it's going to be where do we make those agreements to walk together, and then where do we find those moments where we can start bridging those gaps? And I I, I wish it was a simple process. I really do. I wish we could just all sit down one day and be like, oh yeah, I get it. I know exactly where you're coming from. But again, pain drives decisions. Pain shows where we're going. And I do believe that there is some on both sides. I will say that. I won't say that it's 100% equal, but I
Right.
do believe there is some on both sides. And so because of that, it causes responses that we don't always agree with and that we struggle through. But I do believe that we have a responsibility also. And part of that responsibility is to speak when we need to speak, and it's to shut up when we need to shut up.
Go ahead, Marquis.
Come through. You gotta come through. That's it. I'm
I told
loving
you to
it.
do so.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, yeah.
And look, we've already had Submitted Heart said thanks, Pastor, and I think on behalf of us as well, we want to say thank you.
Thank you for
coming
dropping
through.
by, bro.
Because and it's not so much just because because you are. I mean, just be perfectly honest, because you're a white person speaking up. I will say that because we don't hear that.
No.
We don't hear that. So we're going to be wrapping up pretty shortly, but I thank you for hanging with us. I want to see if I can get somebody else on the line. I know Nika's in here. I know Nika doesn't like to always come through, but if you don't mind, come on through. I just want to hear from you because one of the things you mentioned, you said we have to make a choice of who is in charge. Now I know you may have just gotten here, but we posted about Killer Mike, who's an activist, also a hip hop artist who's has actually went on the news and has spoken against the violent acts that were taking place in Atlanta, and he pretty much said that we have to plan, prepare, and mobilize.
Go ahead.
Oh, you still thinking about Pastor?
No, I'm like y'all gotta forgive me. She know I can be silly, but I'm sitting up here watching her like really work the whole platform and talk, and I'm like skip the beat. Nobody be good.
Yeah, my mind doing this.
She like
right.
Go ahead.
But Nika, please feel free to come in because I think that's what we need to talk about. And it's not a responsibility just for white people. We have a responsibility.
Yes, the greatest responsibility.
Right, and you talked about leadership. So how do we get behind somebody and not say, "Well, no, I got something to say. No, I got something. I want to be, at the forefront. I really want to hear from you because you brought it up."
What Marquis said goes for both sides.
Yes, it does. Yeah,
you got to know when to speak and know when to shut. Just shut up.
Oh, yeah, shut up.
Shut up.
Shut up. But I mean, y'all know how this works. It is just about having a conversation. It's not, about us talking at you. Yes. We have just a few more minutes left, and I welcome, y'all know how it is. There's no judgment in here. I just really want the conversation to be out there, but I don't want it just to end with the conversation. I want it to also be, what are we going to do come, or whenever the election get back on, I guess November, what are we going to do? Are we going to sit and continue to have this conversation? Are we going to vote? Are we going to put the right people in office?
So while we're talking about that, let's just go ahead and reiterate some of the action plans, action stuff that need to happen right now. After we finish this, if you haven't already, go and fill out the census. Fill out the census for your household if you haven't already. Make sure your household, your family, your people are accounted for. And beyond that, hopefully everybody is registered to vote. If you're not registered to vote, register to vote. And I'm going to go a bit further than that. So I've learned, when I was 18 and first started voting, I used to just basically go and press the button for whoever my mom or my dad said, press the button for. But now it's to the point where I have to educate myself because I have things that I want out of this life too. I'm a businessman, so there's certain laws and certain tax incentives and stuff that I'm pushing as well. So educate yourselves and vote for the person that you feel is best suited to push your agenda.
Now for those I'm putting all this information out there. Can you get that from me? I'll put out that US it's 2020 census.gov. If you are in the local area, Bonnie Sherman, I hope she's all right. We'll be putting information out there, but that's what she does. She's a local, I'm just calling her a representative recruiter for our area. If you have questions, you can contact her via Facebook. Also, you can contact them yourself. I don't have that number on me, but you can, call for information on the census. Before this whole COVID situation, they were going to be doing door to door.
You go above and beyond for your viewers, huh?
Oh yeah.
They need to go do their homework themselves.
Yeah, that's true.
But you making it even harder for them because
that's right.
Harder for the excuses because you actually putting it out there and giving it to them. Yep. So y'all got no excuses.
That's right. My mom said, "Was no excuse of the law?" Right? I mean, thank you. I'm sorry. Yeah. But the information is there for you. Also, I think it's Go Vote. Let me give you those. Go Vote. Let me make sure. But also for information when it comes to voting, we have we post, and I'm just going to also plug Hoodstop because we put out information about folks who say, well, I was in jail, can I vote? We had all that information out there.
If you know a family member or yourself, and you were incarcerated or did have some legal troubles, as long as you free and clear, you finished all of your everything that was a part of your sentencing or your punishment, and you free and clear off papers, you can register to vote again. Don't fall for that.
Yeah. But there's a mobile app, Go Vote mobile app. Also, Louisiana.gov. I believe it's / maybe SOS. I gotta find it. Anyway, all those different places where you can go. Yeah. But I'm trying to get the information out there. But I just want to say this, that because of my line of work, you just said news mode, it does make it difficult for me to have this type of conversation. So I wanted to use this platform, I be damned, because this is definitely an I be damned moment. I wanted to use this opportunity to have the conversation, but also put action behind it. You just ask, what is the call to action? This is what it is. Take it upon yourselves. Be the leader in your household, and step up. Don't wait for somebody else to do it, because when we wait, you get left behind.
Yep. And I quote the Honorable Mayor Rodney Grogan. He said this, I posted this, and it will stick with me forever. Those little jewels, I wear them for the rest of my life. And he said, if you're not present at the table, you're on the meeting. So being present at the table means you need to be accounted for. And the census helps do that. If you're not accounted for, you're a bit invisible. So expect to be treated like you're invisible.
So on that note, I always tell the ladies of this tribe that, girl, I got your back.
Oh, this lady's on?
No. Well, it was, but
Oh,
that's
please.
okay. No, but that's all right. We made an
We
exception
came
because
through tonight.
yeah, you did, because this was about what's going on in America, and this is a conversation that needs to be had not just for the ladies, but also for
But I
for you
will
guys
tell
to be
you
a part of it.
this publicly while we're on the line. I am so proud of you. I'm proud of you for continuing to push this platform. I know the behind the scenes struggles you go through. And I'm proud of you because of your heart. You know, I love your heart. I love who you are. And for you to continue to push that and give these people value, kudos.
Thank you so much. Don't make me cry. All right, and on that note, I'm just going to go ahead and end it because thank you so much, because it is a passion of mine, and I thank you for being a part of it. Thank you, ladies and gent, for being a part of this, and I just ask you to continue to push this forward. Have the conversation with your peers. If you have people who are in the legislative, who are legislators, excuse me, talk to them about it. I'm at this point ready to start writing letters because something has to change.
Yeah.
On that note, we didn't get a chance to pop our bottle because this is,
And I
cocktails
forgot
and
to
conversation.
open it.
That's all right. But hopefully, it was a serious conversation. So I need to be
Thank you
focused.
for the platform.
Yes.
And thank y'all for joining in. I sincerely love each and every one of y'all. And I pray the best for y'all. Thank y'all for tuning in. Keep supporting this lady. Share I Be Damned. Bring everybody to it, because I promise y'all, I see the behind the scenes. I see the pain, the tears, the cry, and all that. And she really has a heart for what she does.
Thank you, guys. Thank you. And I'll see you guys next time. Tomorrow we got Ken Blackman. So we had
Oh,
Tyomi. So that was the ladies. She was talking for the ladies, and we got the guys. You guys come on into for I Be Damned. It's going to be Carpool Conversations, 12:30 p.m. We are serving up positive vibes during your lunch break. So we'll see you guys then.
And I'll be damned if